That big pitch, this one.
This elevator is going up.
It's the Big Pitch Radio Show. And here are your hosts, Jason Garey, Marla Tabaka, and Kevin Harrington on Biz Talk Radio.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the Big Pitch Radio Show, bigpitchradio.com. Go to Facebook and like us, Twitter and follow us, both at Big Pitch Radio. We want to make sure that you guys have the best experience possible, and so we are always looking to get great guests on the show, and you can, if you want, go over to bigpitchradio.com, and there's a form you can fill out right there at the top, be a guest on our show, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing your wisdom and insights to us here at Big Pitch Radio and our listening audience. You know, you can go back to the bigpitchradio.com and you can notice that there have been roughly, since about a little over a year, almost 300 shows. And we can thank all of our guests for coming on. And we've had probably of those 300 shows, 700 people we've interviewed, top titans of industry and thought leaders in the world today. And we just couldn't be more grateful to do what we do today. And right now I have Marla Tabaka on with me. She is my favorite co-host when I'll say the same thing to Kevin when he's on too. So, but she is my favorite co-host and great friend, dear friend, top 10 contributing author on Inc. magazine. Marla, how are you? Nice to have you on.
I am very excited about today's show. We're going to get into some good stuff. So
absolutely. And as we mentioned yesterday, Kevin is traveling. He's doing the D like he always is. Probably launching another business of the 600 he's launched in the last 35 years plus. And so we want to thank him for doing great work out there for all of the wonderful entrepreneurs and small businesses out there in the world of today. And so thank you, Kevin. But he'll be back tomorrow, and we're really excited about that as well. And so, Marla, tell us, we got a great show today. Tell us who we have on and also what we're going to be talking about a little bit later on.
yeah, we do have a great show today. Our first guest is Dave Bookbinder, and he's the Director of Valuation Services with GBQ Consulting. And we have some good questions for him around valuing companies and such. I'm really excited about that conversation. And then yesterday's show, Jason, you and I were talking about the why, and you brought up some amazing points. And I'd like to talk more about that later on in the show. What do you think?
I think that's a great idea, and I know it's going to be powerful for you guys out there and how to differentiate yourself in the marketplace, so that'll be fantastic. So let's get right into it. I don't want to waste any time. I want to make sure we give Dave plenty of time to share his wisdom with us, and I know he's got a lot of it, so let's talk about Dave a little bit. Dave Bookbinder is the Director of Valuation Services with GBQ Consulting. Dave and his team serve companies of all sizes all over the world, public and private, in a variety of different industries and geographies. More than a valuation expert, Dave is a proactive problem solver who strives to lend his business experiences to help people with a variety of matters. Dave's team has been recognized by Acquisition International Magazine as best in sector, financial services, recognized by Wealth and Finance International as best for valuation services, and recognized as an Inside Public Accounting All-Star, #1 valuation firm for the third consecutive year. Dave was personally recognized by Smart CEO magazine with an award for executive management, and has also been the recipient of his firm's Founders Award. However, the recognition that Dave is most proud of is an award for best corporate culture. Well, that's fantastic, Dave, and I'm glad that you picked that one to be your favorite. We have Dave on again with us here at Big Pitch Radio Show. And Dave, it's just a pleasure to have you on here with us today, man.
That's my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate it. You know, and I know you've written for different publications, Huffington Post and things like that. But let's go back a little bit. You know, you obviously have a very, very, storied and esteemed background. But before we get into all that, go back a little bit to some of your days before you got into the world of business, and when you grew up in your family, were you in a family of business people, or was it more traditional in nature, or what was your upbringing like?
No, not a business-oriented family. My mom was a bookkeeper, and my dad worked 2 jobs. He worked at the post office, and he worked as a waiter on the weekends. So, hard-working family taught me the values of hard work and the ethic associated with that. And actually had the pleasure of working with my dad as a waiter when I was working my way through college and a little bit through grad school. So learned what it was like to carry a tray, learned to understand early in my so-called career that doesn't matter where you are in the org chart, whether you're in the C-suite or in the mailroom, everybody matters, and you got to talk to people with respect.
It's very, very powerful, and I think it's almost like everything's, not only does everybody matter, but that, if one of those elements is suffering because they're not getting treated properly or they're not respected, that the whole of it suffers.
Yeah, no question. There's obviously what you're alluding to is the ripple effect of communication or lack thereof, and in the absence of good communication, people are left to formulate their own conclusions, and oftentimes those are bad wrong, and unfortunately they make decisions on that bad wrong information.
Right, and it really dovetails into like what you do in valuations. We'll get that in a minute, but really, if you think about, we talk about value creation and things like that in our world. That we look at all these different value drivers, and if one's not optimized, then the rest aren't optimized, and we'll get into a lot of that. But so when you worked your way through college and finally got out there in the workforce, what did you do next? Where did you head, and what was your career path like?
Well, looking back on it. You might think that there was a natural, logical progression and it was all well planned, but really it's all sort of happenstance, and life gives you forks in the road, and you got to choose the right one, I suppose. I started out after graduating college. I was working at the Internal Revenue Service. It had nothing to do with taxes. I was in a budget and reports group, and knew that I didn't want to spend my entire career at the IRS. And as I was getting close to getting my MBA, I found a position on the job board at Drexel University advertising for a valuation consultant position. And it sounded a little bit like the stuff that we were learning in our finance courses, and it sounded pretty cool. So I threw my hat in the ring and landed that position. And then after about 2 years, didn't really think that consulting was for me, so I went to industry, got into investment banking, and then one day realized that the valuation consulting was really the most intellectually gratifying for me, and never looked back.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, so you got into the world of valuations and valuation consulting. Tell us a bit about that. I mean, obviously, to most of our listeners, they understand it, but when we get into valuations, I mean, some people would think, well, it's all relative and it's subjective in matter, and then some say, hey, you can really drill down very deep, and some people say, well, a business is worth what somebody will pay for it, and and there's always these fluctuations in the multiples you can achieve out there. But get into that a little bit. When what do you see differently today versus when you first entered into the industry of valuations?
Well, first of all, you're absolutely right on every one of those points. So every one of them was spot on. Valuation, people have said for years that it's part art and it's part science. So the science part is, of course, there's appropriate methodologies that have to be utilized to determine a correct valuation. Math, of course, has to be right. But then the art part is really the subjective pieces that you get over the course of time with experience and interacting with management teams and understanding their mindset. So, for example, when you start to think about assessing risk, somebody hands you a forecast as you're thinking about maybe an income-based method to help value their company. A lot of companies, you'd be surprised, don't do forward planning. They maybe have a budget for the next month. A lot of them have nothing. And when you start to think about how to value a business, it's a forward-looking exercise, and it's an education process for these clients. One of the big things that a lot of my clients don't really understand, if this is the first time they've gone through a valuation exercise, is that they may be managing their business with one set of strategic imperatives, and that may be completely diametrically opposed to how investors and buyers of that business may look at them.
We're going to take a quick break here in a minute, but what percentage of businesses do you feel out there are not positioned to sell at a multiple that's going to satisfy their wishes and desires, or what they have in their mind as to what their business is worth before you get involved? It's
probably a pretty high number.
Really?
Yeah. Most business owners think their business is worth more than it really is, and they're oftentimes surprised to understand why that's not the case.
Yeah, and I think that you shedding light on that, and that's where the consultancy comes in. Is like you talked about the forward thinking. If they're not thinking forward, and that's the first step to say, wait, you guys need to start thinking forward here, because again, that's largely what a lot of investors, potential investors, are going to peer into is understanding what's on the horizon and not just what's in the past. So I can see where that'd be very valuable, no pun intended, to bring into a light for those folks that you guys work with. So I'd love to come back, talk a little bit about your guys' experience. You have GBQ is a very large company, and I'm sure you have a lot of experience, a lot of data, a lot of history and understanding how to do this stuff. So I'd like to learn a little bit more about that when we come back. And we have Dave Bookbinder, and it's just got a great personality and a great sense about what it takes to value companies. So when we come back, we'll spend more time with him, learn about his company and what they're doing and how they can help you as well. So stick around. You're listening to Big Pitch Radio Show, bigpitchradio.com, Facebook and like us, Twitter and follow us, both at Big Pitch Radio. We'll be right back.
And you are listening to the Big Pitch Radio Show. We're always happy to have you here. Make sure to join us in social media too, will you? We're at Big Pitch Radio on Twitter and the Big Pitch Radio Show on Facebook. And we're here with Dave Bookbinder from GBQ Consulting. And Dave, going into break, we're talking about, some of the steps in valuing a company. And in the last segment, you pointed out that many owners are valuing their company on things that are diametrically opposed to how buyers are looking at them. How much, along that line, how much does corporate culture and the talent that the company has on hire, how much do those things factor in to evaluation?
Well, that's a fantastic question, and actually, frankly, very timely, too, as well, Marla. Thanks so much for asking that. In my business, I get the ability to value a lot of intangible assets, and one of those intangible assets is people. And the methodologies that we utilize to value people, I've always felt don't really tell the whole story. My personal view is that people are the most important assets and most valuable assets in a company. And please don't misconstrue. I'm not disparaging the way the valuation world values what we call human capital. But I think we would all agree in my profession that it doesn't tell the whole story. And I wanted to take a deeper dive into what that meant, and I'm actually launching a series that's going to be probably coming out this week, as a matter of fact, on the value of people. And it started out as an idea about just trying to explain how we in the valuation world put a value on people, put a number on them. And it quickly became something that other folks were interested in participating in. It's a collaborative effort. And it's mostly really going to be talking about valuing people from the standpoint where value means appreciating. And here's a spoiler alert. An appreciated workforce is more engaged, and a more engaged workforce is going to increase the value of the enterprise.
Yeah, most certainly. And, when you hear a lot about people jumping from company to company nowadays, and it looks like 2 years seems to be about the average that people stay at companies nowadays. But I believe millennials are not. I believe that if you keep your employees engaged and interested in the future of the company by really including them, being more of an inclusive culture, that they can stay on longer than that. Do you agree?
I do, and it's interesting because there's a lot of folks that have I think the misconception of the millennials and their attitudes and things like that. But I think they got it right because they want to be part of something bigger. They don't want to just be punching a clock and doing menial tasks. They want to know that things matter. So early at the top of the show, you were talking about the why, and I'm a firm believer in that. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And for me, my why, I get out of bed every day with the idea that I want to add value to my clients, help their advisors, and frankly, I'm on a mission to change the way valuation is perceived and the way valuation services are sold.
I love that. And does that evolve around the people and the corporate culture theory that we're talking about, that change?
Yeah, absolutely. It all comes back down to the people and the team that you have around you. It's about having trust. It's about working together collaboratively. I mean, these are things that seem so simplistically elegant, but I can tell you in the business world, you'd be surprised. Maybe you wouldn't, probably. How many people don't view collaboration as an important thing?
Yeah, it's and not only important, but we're seeing that there's enough data starting to come out because collaboration is being more and more recognized and embraced to suggest that, it profoundly affects the bottom line and top line. When you can grab the brain trust of your existing staff, your employees, your partners within the organization while they're there, and they can feel like they're contributing, that it actually has a direct and quantifiable effect on the bottom and top line, right?
Yeah, no question. I can tell you that I think my clients benefit from the fact that we bring this collaborative process to what we do. In valuation, most of the time our deliverables, any valuation deliverable for that matter, winds up in front of some other constituent review party. So, in other words, an audit firm, the IRS, the SEC, some other body has to sign off on the valuation before the numbers are able to be used for whatever the intent was. And I've been on both sides of the table where I've worn the review hat. So I've had to review the work of everybody from the folks who are working in their kitchen all the way up through the big four work product. And what I find is if you collaborate, in other words, you get people to buy in at the beginning of the process, help them understand how you're viewing things, keep them engaged, keep them included in the dialogue. When you get to that spot where they receive your deliverable, they're already invested in it, and there's no surprises.
Yeah, no, that's powerful. And, we see that a lot out there, when the work that we do, that if they have a collaborative environment and it's not so, it's not so linear, that, here's the heads and the organization and you guys are just the minions doing the work and doing the deeds. I think that companies are missing a huge boat, like I said, in tapping in to the collective wisdom of the group itself. And I'm sure that plays, like Marla says, it plays really into, how corporate culture and these types of things can affect valuation. What are you seeing in terms of activities out there? Is M&A activity on the rise? Is that your assessment? Because, your work that you do is largely tied to that activity. And so what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. As I've written, nobody really wakes up one morning and says, you know what, I want to know what my company is worth, and I'm going to spend a few bucks to figure that out. Usually, valuations happen because somebody else is telling the client, you need to get this done, whether it's the audit, an SEC filing, what have you, tax return, and that's when they engage a valuation profession. So you're right. We're largely involved in transactionally driven activities. Most of the things that we're seeing recently are purchases of other businesses. A lot of things that we're seeing in the valuation space right now are involving stock-based compensation. So, for example, granting employees either stock options or restricted shares in the company.
Like ESOPs and stuff.
Yeah, that as well.
Yeah. Yep. No, it's very powerful. We got to run here, but I wanted to say, first of all, very, very, very insightful, David, and what you brought to the table. We'd love to have you come back, especially when Kevin's on. I know he actually texted me and said he's apologized that he wasn't able to make it on, but says hello to you, by the way.
Thank you.
So there you go. We'll get him in and get that going as well. But I hope you enjoyed your time here on Big Pitch Radio and that you'll join us again sometime.
It's been a lot of fun. I'd love to. Thanks for having me.
No, we appreciate it. Stick around during the break here, and I want to chat with you for a minute. But, yeah, go tell people where they can find out more about your services, David.
Yeah, so you can visit our website at www.gbqconsulting.com.
There you go. It's that simple, guys. Here's the guy that looks at it differently, justifiably so. And if you want that difference, definitely get in touch with them. Obviously, very, very accomplished at what they do. So you want somebody that knows how to do it.
Ahead of the curve, right?
Ahead of the
curve.
Time,
yeah.
Big time. So go check them out. It's been a pleasure having you on, and we'll get you on here real soon again, all right?
Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right. Stick around, guys. We're going to come right back. And Marla's got some why conversation when she comes back. So you're listening to Big Pitch Radio Show, bigpitchradio.com. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You are listening to Big Pitch Radio Show, bigpitchradio.com. Go to Facebook and like us, Twitter, and follow us, both at Big Pitch Radio. We had David Bookbinder on with us from GBQ Consulting, and when it comes to valuations, nobody better in the business than those guys. Check them out for sure. And speaking of valuations and how you get out there and present yourself and build a business that has a strong valuation, Marla and I on the last show got just slightly into your why as a business owner. And David talked about that here just a couple minutes ago. And I know Marla wants to dive in a little bit deeper. So Marla, tell us a little bit more about what you mean by why and how that's important and how you can really develop that.
Yeah. I have to say, David is not something that you expect an evaluation expert, really, at least me anyway, because he gets the whole corporate culture thing, the whole why thing, the passion thing. He really gets that. And I think that that's unusual, even for some entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs often are looking to for that formula to success, that magic bullet. And experts like you and I'll say, you know what, there is no magic bullet, but finding your why is as close to magic as it can get. When entrepreneurs are stuck and they don't have the clarity that they need, then they get frustrated and overwhelmed and even fearful. And when someone comes to me in that state of confusion, in that sense of overwhelm, the first thing they ask is, man, how do I get past this and make my business successful? But the more significant question, what they should really be asking is, why should I get past this and make my business more successful? It's just a simple little word that people don't ask themselves, and a question that, entrepreneurs are kind of afraid to drill down to. Now, it may seem logical to start with the how. How am I going to build this? What methods are we going to use? And, what software are we going to use and such? But actually, that's not going to bring you your clarity, because it doesn't inspire the passion. It doesn't give you the energy to create your most powerful vision and the grit that you got to have to maneuver through all those challenges and yes, the failures that are going to come up. And it doesn't help you with that foresight piece, which is so important to pave the path to your vision. But the why will bring these strengths and qualities and really, really fuel that entire business building process for you. So, I think that a lot of entrepreneurs who think they know their why really don't. They think they do, but they don't. And they truly haven't gotten down to the heart of this. So what makes me say that is because they're missing the mark, because you can tell there's not the passion in there. And so how do you know if you don't have your why? Well, your feelings, your body, it's that simple. Your feelings are going to tell you. When you close your eyes and you envision your why, that future, how do you feel? I mean, does it make you excited? Does your heart pound a little faster? Does it bring up that passion? Can you not wait to get to work? And that's how you know. And people kind of look at me odd when I say this, but I work with a lot of people. This is one of my sweet spots. I work with a lot of people to help them to get to their why, because I can tell you most of the clients who come into coaching with me don't have it. And how do you know when you get to it? Because 95% of the time when a client and I get to the why, they cry. It brings tears to their eyes. And I'm not just talking like tearful. I'm talking like meaningful tears that actually rock their world. That is how you know when you get to your why. And, the word is simple, the concept is simple, but in all of its simplicity, it's not something that people can do without guidance and support. And I'll tell you why. It can be like pulling a tooth. You brush your teeth, you floss your teeth, whatever you do, but you go to a dentist when you need a tooth pulled and a crown put in or something like that. And that's ironically because when they think they've come up with a why, they don't go further, drilling down by using the word why. So Jason, you went over some great questions and a great strategy yesterday in yesterday's show. And I have some more questions to ask. And the trick here is not to ask yourself the questions and stop, but to keep asking why. After every question, why, and just pound it in, why, and use your feelings as a gauge, because they're going to tell you when you arrive at the real answer. So there are 8 quick questions I'm going to go through And you can find these questions actually on my column this week on Inc.com. And just search me, Marla Tabaka, on Inc., and you'll find my articles. And the article that these questions are in is finding your why. You may be missing the most important step. And that step is to ask yourself why and to keep doing that. So the first question is, what is the most important thing in the world to me? And then keep asking, why is that important? When I lose all track of time, I'm usually doing what? What do you do when you like all of a sudden look up and say, man, I was so engaged. I lost myself there. What do you get most excited and passionate about? And if money weren't an issue, what would you volunteer your time and money to do? If there was one thing in the world that you could change, that you had the power of change, what would it be? What world issues matter the most to you? And I really like this one. If I did a TED Talk, what would my core message be? That's going to tell you a lot because, and I mean a TED Talk, okay? If you were up there at TEDx, what would your core message be? It's most likely going to be around your why because they don't take hows at TED, right? And then lastly, this is another really, really important thing to do, is to do your values work. What are your personal values? Because you're going to bring those into your why. They are what make you tick, and it's going to be what makes your why tick and what makes you really, really find the passion and the power to move forward. So finding your values is another process that you might need some assistance in, again, because people don't ask why. You know, if integrity is a top value for you, why? Get into that why and just keep drilling down with the word that you're trying to find the answer to, and that is why. Jason, you know your why.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really to help. I mean, I think if the why is to go out and help people first, you know, I mean, if you can figure out how to help people instead of selling something or trying to make money off of something and I get it, the mortgage has to be paid and, you know, but whatever your why is, make sure that it's surrounded with the goal of helping people. And if you could do that, then immediately you're going to extract yourself out of the fray in terms of how everybody else may be perceived out there.
Yeah, and I'd add to that specifically, you're so right, because when it's around the money, those businesses don't succeed. Who do you want to help? What people do you want to help? And why is it so important to you? It almost always goes back to just an issue that you feel in your heart that you're here on Earth, on this planet, specifically to help resolve or to resolve altogether. Mm-hmm.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. So that's just one thing that, not enough entrepreneurs go through, and a good coach, as I said, this is my sweet spot. I really enjoy helping people with this, and find yourself a good coach who can help you go through the process. Otherwise, you're going to get lost in it. You're not going to drill down far enough because it can be painful. It really can. Momentarily, but then when you get to the answer, when you get to that core, it's absolutely joyful, and those tears turn from, oh my God, this hurts, to, oh my gosh, I can make a difference, and that's when you know that you've got it. So head on over to inc.com, inc.com/Marla, inc.com/author /Marla-Tabaka, or just search me on Inc. and you'll find this article, you'll find those questions, and I hope that they inspire you to really drill until you get that magic, until you hit that magic button that really is there, because as I said, it's as close to magic as you can possibly get. So make sure to stay tuned for our next segment. And Kevin Harrington is not with us today, but he comes back tomorrow. We'll enjoy that as well.